Good evening. Sorry for coming in late. There's just so much sometimes going on. But I think the other day I discussed with my brother over there, and I think Mr. True will be in agreement with that. I mean, our class, when we meet together, it really should have a specific purpose. And I think everything has to boil down to taking care of ourselves, our body, our mind, our soul. Now, the first time that I was introduced to this book, I've actually read this book maybe 2 or 3 times. It's an easy read, the God-Man book.
Okay.
But at the same time, it's very deep, very profound. We started off with giving you the foundation, the historical foundation of religion. And I think it was important to understand that background because from what we have discussed, then we know there's a big difference between spirituality and religion. Spirituality being what I consider divine, and religion being man-made. We Africans, African of the diaspora, or African from the motherland, we have always been spiritual people, which basically means that we value spirituality than we value the man-made type religion. The reason why it's important to make that difference, because when we look at religion as a creation of man, we understand that it cannot be perfect. Whatever we taught, going to a church, a synagogue, is being written by human beings, even though they may claim that they are inspired by God. Because whoever put into writing anything that we read today in terms of scripture, there's always a human aspect that is part of it, whether we like it or not. And that's the reason why, as we look at this first chapter today of God-Man book, there's another section toward the end that's going to talk about those books that were not included for some of us who were brought up Christians, that were just cut out from the Bible at the Council of Nicaea. And we all can speculate the reason why some of these books were not included in what we know today as the Bible. The first chapter in this book is the kingdom at hand. One of the things that to me is very frustrating growing up as a Christian is the fact that so many things didn't make more sense to me. I couldn't connect the dots. It was confusing to the degree where I wasn't really interested in listening to all that. Because what I was taught, again, I couldn't connect the dots. It didn't make more sense to me. And as I grew up, I had an uneasy feeling. What is it that I'm really into here? But when I started doing my own research, I started understanding what is behind the book that we so cherish as Christians, called the Bible. That book is a very important book, but it's none other than the chemical, astrological operation of our human body. When I read the Bible today, I read it from a different mindset, because now I can see what is behind the lines that I'm reading. It's nothing like a story, as many of our preachers very well want to demonstrate during the Sunday services or during Bible study. It's very allegoric. Those are the stories, again, that really have to do with the chemical functioning of our body and our connection with the universe. That's astrology. On the first chapter here, when they say the kingdom at hand, that's the first chapter of this God-man book. That means that we have two ways of thinking about ourselves. We can think of ourselves as being nothing and relying on some kind of supernatural intervention to make us somebody. That's one way of looking at ourselves. And from experience, you'll see that in many of our churches, that's the way we view ourselves. We're done, we're nothing, there's nothing that we can do. We need some kind of divine intervention to make us whole again. That's one way of looking at ourselves. The other way is we are actually potential gods that can really develop our inner knowledge and open ourselves and connect with the source of energy that some people may call God, what I will call Jehovah, what I will call Allah. I don't know how the Hindu call it, but different names. That is source of energy that is connected to our human being and connected to the universe. So when we look at ourselves, just try to think. Look at yourself as a potential God and look at yourself as nothing, waiting for divine intervention. That's two different ways of looking at yourself. And that's going to determine the way you behave. On the first chapter here, Kingdom at Hand, it actually teaches us to look at ourselves as potential gods. Actually, as born gods. Where if we really get into understanding who we are, we can conquer everything around us. And how do we do that? In the Bible. When the disciples, and this is a passage in the Bible, I think it's in John. When the disciples started asking Jesus, how do we do that? How do you do that? Those miracles. Somebody is dead physically, but you're able to bring them to life. Why do you? And Jesus turned around and he looked at them and said, don't you know you gods? This is a story from the Bible. And I don't know if preachers emphasize on it or if they really dig deeper to explain to the congregation what that means. That simply means that in each and every one of us, we have a seed that has the potential of transforming us into God. Now, it has to do with the way that we train ourselves to get access to that. Because this body that we have, there's no perfect machine than the human body. But it's a machine that needs to be kept healthy in every aspect of it for us to be able to elevate ourselves to that understanding, deeper understanding of who we are. It depends on what we eat. It depends on what we drink. It depends on what we think. There's things that we say, from a physical standpoint, it makes sense. Again, in the Bible, it says, and I'm referring to the Bible just to say that I'm not really that distant from the Bible, because I'm using as a tool, but to illuminate those things that I believe preachers should do. You reap what you sow. Isn't that what they sow in the Bible? It's nothing less than the karmic law of action and reaction. That's a natural law. We all experience it. If I take a ball right now and I hit that against this wall, it's going to come straight back to me. It's not going to be able to go to my brother. That's a physical law. But we see that from a physical standpoint. On the spiritual sense of the word, it's exactly the same thing. As a matter of fact, we never get away with anything. Never. If you go around like cheating on people or stealing people's stuff, thinking that, oh, nobody's going to catch you. You are actually doing that to yourself, not to somebody else. And in the Bible it says, even if you're underwater and you do something, God sees you. Now, come on. That is coming from the Bible. What does that actually mean? It just means that whatever you do, you don't really get away with it. If you do good, I can guarantee you, in one way or the other, good is going to come back to you. Because it's action and reaction. There's always a reaction to every action. On the physical sense, just like on the spiritual sense. So now when we start understanding that, knowing that when I hurt my brother or my sister, I'm not really hurting them. Who am I hurting? Myself. We start living in a way that can begin to make us think differently about ourselves. And that's how, if the Egyptian civilization lasted so long, is because they understand the holistic definition of life. We are one. We are one into a whole and a whole into one. When we look at we conceptualize life that way. We're sitting here as a group. If Mr. True is hurting, we may be enjoying, thinking that we're enjoying, but because Mr. True is hurting and we are part of this group, guess what? We are all hurting. Because a whole into one and one into a whole. And that's how life, that's how the universe is. If we could just understand those basic concepts. I mean, in a split of a second, this world will become a very peaceful place. Because each person will say, oh my God, if I hurt my brother, guess who I'm hurting? If I hurt my sister, guess who I'm hurting? I'm hurting myself. But we don't think that way. We think that we can hurt other people and get away with it. We never get away with anything. And sometimes when we look at it, we take it to a different level. We see what's happening like in America today. Mass shooting. All those people being killed. Now, one thing that we need to understand, what goes around comes around. It's the same law. Action and reaction. I mean, there's been so much blood shed on this land. And that blood that's been shed on this land, whether we like it or not, is going to create a reaction. And the impact is going to be at the level of the magnitude of the blood that was shed. Innocent blood, that is. So sometimes when we think about things, we need to make connection. And we need to understand what it really is, knowing thyself. Knowing thyself, again, is understanding that we're part of a whole. We're part of the universe. And we're connected to everything in the universe. Do we know that our reaction, it really depends on the position of the moon and the position of the sun, whether we like it or not? Every 29 days in our lives, I mean every 29 days, when the sun takes the position, I mean when the moon takes the position of the sun, the day of our birth, it creates in ourselves some kind of a reaction. And this reaction produces in what we call in woman the period. We, the men, we don't see that, but the reaction is the same. Women will see that through the period, but this is directly connected to the position of the moon.